Welcome to Break the Rules with Dr. Lauren Lax, a podcast dedicated to quieting the noise in the health, food, and fitness world. Dr. Lauren is a leading nutritionist, therapist, and functional medicine practitioner on a mission to help others thrive in their own lives, mind, body, and soul. And now, your host, Dr. Lauren Lax.
Well, hello. Welcome to another edition of the Break the Rules podcast, where we talk about quieting the noise in the health, food, and fitness world. And today, I am so excited about this episode. I've got Sarah Morgan in the house, who is a modern-day inventor. And she is known for her innovative ideas that connect science to everyday life. She delivers impactful science-based solutions for common health problems. And the health problem we're talking about specifically today is birth control and the side effects that a lot of times women experience coming off the pill or even on the pill. And Sarah has created a really unique invention called the other pill that she's going to tell us about to help support nutritional needs and just your body's needs while on the pill to make it a completely different experience. And she is the founder of Even, the first wellness company focused on providing nutrient support for those taking prescription medications to minimize side effects caused by nutrient depletion. So we're going to have a really awesome conversation. Sarah, thanks for coming on the show. And if you could just give us a little bit of background about yourself and what got you doing the work you're doing in the world.
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me on, Lauren. It's an honor to be on. And, for me, the genesis of Even, what I'm doing, really came from a personal story I had when I went on birth control in my 20s and very quickly felt just weird and off. I was like, I don't feel like myself and I don't really know why, which I think, so many women can relate to. And so for me, I went to some of my girlfriends that I knew were also taking the pill, as so many of us ladies call it. And, I was like, do you feel weird? Like, do you feel different? And they're like, oh yeah, welcome to the club of headaches and mood swings and low libido and digestive issues and fatigue and on. And I was like, wait a minute, something is like so wrong about this, right? Like we as ladies just take the hit, for being on birth control. And, on the other side of that, I also want to say the pill served me well, right? Like I'm not a medication basher. I'm also not someone that believes in shaming people that use medications. The pill also on the other side served me well. Like I went through my educational process, was able to complete all the education I wanted to pursue my career. And so there was, a positive side of that. It's just the downside was enough that I was like, I really want to dig into this and figure something out. So fast forward, I went through my educational process, worked in clinical practice for about 13 years. And, I started like seeing these people that were getting the benefits of their medications, but at the same time, they were nutrient deficient. Like I'd run these labs on them. We'd look at their micronutrients, so their vitamins, their minerals, their antioxidant status. And, I would see these like blatantly obvious micronutrient deficiencies that I know it's like, oh, if a woman is depleted in vitamin B6, that plays a really significant role in tryptophan metabolism, which impacts our feel-good serotonin and our sleep-well melatonin levels. And, is just connecting a bunch of dots. Like I'm a person who sees patterns and thinks that way. And I was like, man, we can create a solution to this. Like this is fixable. This is something that doesn't have to be this way. And so I really went after this subject of what are called drug-nutrient interactions. And, the reality is our medications, there's this give and take relationship with using modern medications, and they give us these benefits, right? There's positive to them, but at the same time, they're taking these micronutrients from us. And for the majority of, the way we address medications, physicians are trained to think about it. Micronutrient depletions from medications are widely unrecognized. And it's a big reason why people have these side effects while they take their meds. So we really want to bridge the gap. We want to say, you know what? We want people to get the benefits of their medications, take the medications their body requires with the nutrients their body needs. So their biochemistry is in balance, and we can improve quality of life, and just, it's a better experience overall. So we're really innovating, medication use and giving the patient, the medication user and the healthcare professional new tools that they can use, that just makes it better for everybody.
Yeah, when we first were talking, was just kind of blown away because this is an area that I feel like as a nutritionist and functional medicine practitioner goes really unaddressed. And when I see a patient comes to mind, even he's in his 80s, I think at one time that I was working with, he was hospitalized because he was on 18 different medications that were just like kind of debilitative. He got debility from it, from just being on the medication, and nutrition was never part of the conversation for him prior to us working together. And so when given the right tools, the body innately wants to heal itself. I so believe. Talk a little bit about some of the foundational nutrients that support, let's staying in the realm of women on the pill, that are often go awry.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I'll say is when we talk about the nutrients, that get depleted while women are on birth control, I always love to start with like, what are the common side effects? Because it's the thing like you feel, right, as a female, and how does that connect to the nutrient depletion? So some of the most common side effects women experience when they go on hormonal forms of birth control would be mood swings. So that could be like depression, anxiety, like I just feel overwhelmed. I want to cry. I'm so angry. I want to go key somebody's car. It's kind of different for everybody. Decreased libido. This is a big one that I think just gets written off for so many women. And I'm so passionate about saying like it is a side effect and there is a solution. Like we have women now on birth control that are like, my libido came back. And that's amazing for me and my partner, right? Which is a big deal. Weight gain, headaches, digestive discomfort, including nausea, even appetite changes like increase of appetite or decrease. Sleep quality tends to decrease, and fatigue are some of the common things. So when we look at the nutrients that are depleted in terms of categories that are really important for us to support. This actually comes from the World Health Organization. They actually have an official statement that says birth control depletes the body of these key nutrients, and the supplementation or getting enough of these nutrients should be considered a first line therapy for clinicians and for patients to consider, which I'm like, why aren't we talking about this? Why aren't we doing this, right? So as a category, B vitamins are one of the categories that's incredibly important. And there's several reasons for that I'm happy to go into. A couple of the key B vitamins are vitamin B6. And again, it's used in that mood regulating pathway very heavily. Vitamin B6 is also used to interchange a bunch of our different amino acids, which are like the building blocks for a protein, but they're used to make neurotransmitters and all kinds of really cool things in our body. And then, in terms of some of the other B vitamins, folate is another one, which is vitamin B9. And then a one that's under recognized that I feel like is like the underdog, a lot of people don't talk about, is vitamin B1, which is thiamine. And there's an interesting connection with lactic acid levels, like how our muscles get sore if we do like a workout and there's too much lactic acid from what's called anaerobic metabolism, like without oxygen. Well, that can happen in our gut as females when we go on birth control, and you have higher lactic acid levels in your digestive tract, which can cause discomfort. It can cause the nausea. And if you get enough thiamine, vitamin B1, what happens is you shift that metabolism back to aerobic metabolism, away from all that lactate or lactic acid production. And you can really see improvements in a lot of the GI symptoms that are associated with birth control. And then vitamin B1 and vitamin B2 is called riboflavin, are really important for hormonal metabolism in the liver. And this is something like when I was digging back into the research, I went all the way back into the 1940s, and they looked at the way that vitamin B1 and vitamin B2 were used by the liver to metabolize estrogen. And when they depleted the tissue of these really crucial nutrients, the ability to metabolize estrogen was lost. And then when they brought it back, it was regained. And I bring that up because a lot of the symptoms that women experience when they're on birth control have to do with issues with hormonal metabolism, right? We talk so much about like your birth control, and you go in and it's like, well, I'm having issues and I don't feel good, so let's switch you to a different birth control, right? That's the main, tool that physicians have. But the issue is hormones are, especially estrogen, is use it and lose it. I love that. That's how OBGYNs talk about estrogen. Problem is, if your liver is not able to metabolize these hormonal products that you're consuming exogenously, like outside of your body, what happens is those hormonal metabolites can build up and exert effects in your body, like breakthrough bleeding, breast tenderness, moodiness is partially even some of the hormonal metabolites. Estrogen metabolites that increase can also make it harder to lose weight, or you feel like you're starting to gain weight. It can cause digestive discomfort when your liver's kind of backed up or clogged up and not metabolizing some of these properly. So B vitamins are one. Sorry, that was a little bit of a tangent.
No, that's great.
Some of the minerals are really important as well, like selenium, zinc, magnesium, and those play some very crucial roles in a lot of different systems that we can discuss further. Some of the antioxidants are really important, like vitamin C, as in cat, vitamin E as in elephant. There are actually studies that show women who go on hormonal forms of birth control have higher oxidative stress markers. That means they have higher markers of inflammation. And in interventional studies where they took these women and they supplemented them, they gave them therapeutic doses of these antioxidants, their oxidative stress markers came back in balance. So the cool thing is it's so easy to fix if you do the right things. And so antioxidants are big. Mitochondrial function is important too. So your mitochondria, they're little energy buddies, I call them, that produce energy in the form of something called ATP in all of your cells. You make your body weight in ATP every single day, which is incredible. And sometimes your little energy buddies, these mitochondria, can become a little bit dysfunctional if you don't have the right nutrients to support them properly, which is something that's targeted in the formula that we have. And then also we have some very gentle hormonal detoxification in there. Again, going back to that topic of hormonal metabolism, we want to help to make sure that you're using the hormones and losing the hormones properly. And that really mitigates a lot of those hormonal side effects that can happen. And you can actually test your hormonal metabolites. It's not, something that's like out there that's theoretical, but we can actually look at that. And it does improve when you use some of these very gentle supports that it's called phase 2 conjugation in your liver. So you have these different phases that like a hormone goes through to kind of be metabolized to get it out of the body. That's the goal. And you have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And this area that tends to be slow for a lot of people is phase 2. So we're supporting that really significantly.
How are you testing, basically those things for the metabolites? Do you prefer urine, blood?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think for metabolites, urine is probably better. If we're actually measuring like estrogen, progesterone, your androgens, testosterone, I like blood plus urine because I think they're showing us different things, different parts of hormonal metabolism, and just we're not like sex hormone binding globulin is a little taxi cab for our hormones. And I don't know that you necessarily get like the capacity of that just in urine. It's nice to see like what that marker is in the blood. Women who are on hormonal forms of birth control tend to have higher levels of sex hormone binding globulin. And that can actually impact libido, because what happens is it will bind and it will kind of like pick up more free testosterone that's floating around. And us ladies, we need testosterone too. And testosterone is one of the things that really helps us with our libido, something that, gives us like a desire and like our sexual side as females. And if your sex hormone binding globulin gets too high, you'll have lower levels of free floating testosterone. That's actually something you can see pretty easily on a blood test. I actually just saw one of those like literally 2 days ago from a female on oral contraceptives.
Yeah, that's just something I tend to see as well. Just low everything across the board with women that maybe had a history of being on the pill, or they're just also in tandem with like feelings like long chronic stress, fatigue, etc. And that being part of the paradigm. Talk to us a little bit about this. So the side effects of that women may have on birth control, are those you find primarily just because these nutrients are getting depleted over time? Or is there anything else going on, like from a hormonal level, that is also needing more support or attention?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So the first thing I'll say is everybody's different, right? Everybody's medical situation is different. So when we talk about hormones, right, it's like this conceptual, like big umbrella idea. And hormones are little chemical messengers that, travel around in our bloodstream, and they elicit responses in different parts of our body. So we have sex hormones when we're talking about estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, or androgens. And those are, more specific to, this topic, I guess you could say, or even in hormonal birth control, you're actually going to be getting different, forms of estrogen or different generations of progestins in actual, hormonal birth control. But hormones go way beyond that, right? Like we have tons of different ones. We have stress hormones. Even we could argue that some of our hormones are also neurotransmitters that impact our mood. We have hormones like insulin that impacts our blood sugar regulation. So, in terms of that category, there's a lot of different things that can impact it. Another one is our thyroid hormone, right? And what's interesting about birth control, if we think about the mechanism of action of how birth control works, is we are giving ourselves, for hormonal birth control, exogenous hormones, right, from outside of the body. And so what happens is we have this hormonal system that starts up in our brain, and it goes down like our thyroid gland, which is in our neck. And we have our adrenal glands, which are on top of our kidneys. If you take your thumbs and kind of point to your mid back, that's where your adrenal glands are. We have our ovaries as females. We have our pancreas. These are all parts of the endocrine system that make hormones for us. And what happens is you take exogenous hormones in the form of hormonal birth control. And what it does is it actually changes the signal all the way up in the brain, something called your HPA axis, your hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, you could say gonadal, like ovary axis. And so your ovaries will start to make less of their own hormones because you're taking them. And what it does is it kind of regulates that HPA axis system in a way that doesn't make you as likely to be able to get pregnant, right? And it's more complicated than that, but I'm just making it somewhat, simple. So depending on the health of your endocrine system, when you go on birth control, while you're on birth control, and when you go off birth control, will depend a lot on how you feel in that process, right? And like if you're under tons of stress, you don't sleep well, you're exercising too much, you're nutrient depleted, and you go on the pill and you take a medication that increases certain nutrient needs, right? Like, or it's using more of these nutrients while you're on it, you're going to have more of an issue, more likely than someone who sleeps well, eats a really good diet, like doesn't have as much stress. So again, there's a lot of interplay, like your terrain, your environment, and your body matters deeply. But the fact is, everybody who goes on hormonal birth control, there is a nutrient depletion aspect of that medication. And that is a fact. And so you need to support it. So again, there's many things going on. Now, another thing that's interesting is birth control depletes nutrients that are really important for thyroid function. So there's a lot of interplay with the different systems in our body, and it's really hard to just like break apart one thing or the other, right? It's when you're taking that test, in college or high school, it's like the D, all of the above,
Right. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is so true. There's not one thing, and sometimes one thing is a domino to the next thing too. Then it all becomes intertwined.
Yeah, it does. And I think, just to interject and say something, because sometimes I think when we say all of that, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming for a listener to like, where do I start and how do I know what I should do? The first thing is you've got to work on the foundational aspects, right? Like, and that's something we have in a 6 ways to feel better while you're on the pill. Or hormonal forms of birth control. And we have that as an ebook that we'll give everybody, all your listeners, a link. And it goes through things like, what are the important dietary things that you should be doing while you're on birth control? What about lifestyle things, right? Like all these different aspects that you can do today. I'm a big person about actionable next steps. And then know the reality is when I take a medication, I have unique nutrient needs and I need to meet those. And if you start there, that's a great place to build some positive momentum for yourself, no matter where any listener finds themselves feeling or what they're experiencing today.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you interjected that. And I want to know your thoughts from a symptomatic perspective. Though, why is gut issues sometimes common? Especially, I'm thinking bloating. And I see a lot of SIBO post pill use. So maybe they were on the pill for a very long time and then they decide to come off of it. And then it's like a gully washer of whether it's SIBO or just yeast overgrowth, etc. That then they just feel awful on that area of the body. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I take a different approach than most people do to that topic in the functional medicine world. I think SIBO and SIFO, small intestinal fungal overgrowth, has a lot to do with the environment of the small intestines or the upper GI tract. And basically, if you've never heard of those terms, what they mean is like either a bacteria or a fungus is growing in your small intestines where it doesn't belong, right? It's made its home somewhere where it shouldn't. And then these bacteria or fungal components make all these byproducts, like different types of gases that literally can make you feel like you're, 4 or 5 months pregnant. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got a beach ball in my belly, right? Kind of thing. So the thing that's really important to remember and highlight is liver and gallbladder function. So your liver filters your blood at about 100 gallons a day. It's really amazing. It is an organ that you can't live without for about 24 hours, right? Like there's no dialysis for your liver if it stops functioning. And your liver is filtering out different components, garbage, toxins, hormonal metabolites, all kinds of stuff from your blood. And some things you're exposed to just, being alive, and some things your body makes just to keep you alive. And it's your liver's job to take those things, remove them from the circulation of the blood, and then get them out of the body. So how does the liver do that? It's through something called the enterohepatic circulation, or if I can so boldly say, poop out your problems. Okay. And so what happens is your liver gets, it removes these things from your blood and it says, okay, how am I going to get it out of the body? Well, I make this stuff called bile, and bile goes to the little gallbladder where it's stored and concentrated. And then it's secreted into the first part of your small intestines, where it travels down through. And eventually there's an exit out of the body, right? So what happens is you need to have adequate liver gallbladder function for the pH of your small intestines to be in a good place, right? To have more of an acidic pH where you can't, like bacteria and fungal components can't grow as easily in your upper GI tract. So what happens is, again, women go on hormonal forms of birth control and their liver gallbladder function suffers because it's not supported. Because there's a lot of those nutrients that I covered that are really important for these phase 1, phase 2 to phase 3, which is actually a bowel movement. That's phase 3. So phase 1 and 2 are in the liver. And if those start to not work properly, you have a backup. Everything gets backed up. You don't have proper excretion flow of your bile. And you can have a lot of problems. It shifts the environment. And, if you look at the relapse rates of SIBO and SIFO after you go on a course of antibiotics or antifungals, and then you stop, about 90 to 95% of the time it comes back. Why? It's an environmental issue. You have to change the environment so that those guys are not, it's like, I don't want to live here, right? I can't live here. Mm-hmm. And so that's, I believe, a big reason why we see that in women who are on hormonal birth control, who are not supported properly in the process.
Yeah, supporting the mechanics too of digestion, just to be able to support that environment.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned B1, B2 being also influential nutrients that are like depleted. And interestingly enough, research also shows that is those two vitamins in particular are essential for keeping yeast and bacteria at bay.
Yep, exactly.
That makes sense. Talk a little bit about just supporting, like just liver support in general. Like there is so much out there about like liver cleansing, or like just go on a juice cleanse or do medical medium, drink celery juice every day. Yeah. Do you have any practical, just really tips or essentials that you like to encourage folks to do to support their liver, both nutritionally and lifestyle wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for your liver, I think, remember, it's like a filtering organ, right? It's removing things. So the first thing is considering like what's going into your liver that you can like reduce that burden. So more than food, we drink a lot more water, right, than we do consume in terms of volume of food. So something I always recommend is like get purified water, like get a reverse osmosis system at your house. It removes total dissolved solids. You can get one that has remineralization, at the end of it. But that's a great way to mitigate your total toxic burden, right? In terms of things that are coming in. Also cleaning up your diet, obviously is a good thing, and focusing on things that are great for your liver. So I love beets. I love encouraging people to consume leafy greens. Anything that is bitter is going to be very beneficial for your liver. Now, if you're used to like more sweeter tasting things, you're like, oh, right. It's a little bit challenging to get used to that. And you can actually even use bitters, like digestive bitters that help with, stomach acid production, bioflow, pancreatic enzyme secretion. That's another way, like if you're really not feeling well, that's something I recommend doing as like an additive thing on top of your diet. And then, another one that's really important is proteins. Your liver needs amino acids to function properly. If you look at like a pathway of how your liver works, one of the things that it needs is these specific amino acids in the process. So you want to eat a nutrient-rich diet because the liver needs a lot of these different, again, B vitamins, minerals, amino acids. And the other thing is you've got to have a bowel movement every day. I know, ladies, as we talk about this, it's like, oh, maybe this is a little uncomfortable, but it is so important because, your body can do all this work to get this out of your bloodstream and it, puts it into your GI tract. But if you're not regularly having a bowel movement that sits in your GI tract, in your colon, And those, different substances start to get reabsorbed across that gut lining back into circulation, which is, not a great thing. So hydration is really important. Getting some movement, magnesium levels. Like there's a lot of ladies out there who don't have enough magnesium in their life. And those are some things that you can do that are also going to come back to supporting your liver function. Mm-hmm. So, like getting more in depth about like, do I do this crazy cleanse? Do I do all these things? It's like, again, that goes back to like your personalized situation. I don't want to say that's always necessary for everybody to do. And I think some of those things can potentially backfire for different reasons. So if you're going to do something like that, or you're considering it, definitely work with a qualified healthcare professional that can walk you through that and tell you if that you think you're like a good candidate to do something like that.
Yeah. That way you're not just piecemealing your liver health support anyways by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Work with somebody like Lauren.
Yeah, here to serve. Well, Sarah, this has been so insightful. And I guess any last words of just encouragement that you have for women that are maybe they were on the pill since they were teens, not for even like sexual activity reasons. It was skin health, or in my case, prescribed it because I had anorexia as a kid, and it was just for like period support, etc., without ever being told so much about side effects. Anything that you have, I guess, words of wisdom?
Yeah. So first thing I would say is pay it forward. You have this knowledge now. So if you're listening to this and you know of someone in your life that is using hormonal forms of birth control, one, like wherever you stand about hormonal birth control, I feel like it's a decently charged topic. My goal is to give people tools for where they're at and bridge this conversation in a very powerful and empowering way. So let somebody know in your life that is using birth control that they have unique nutrient needs. The other pill is a great option to meet those in a very scientifically validated way. So check it out. Maybe share this interview with them. And if you are using birth control for whatever reason, it's important to check in on your nutrient status because it's probably something that it's been a pattern for maybe as long as you've been on birth control that you've been, depleted in nutrients. So make sure, again, you work with someone that can test you, look at these things, and work on building up your nutrient status, getting your biochemistry back into balance because it's, there's hope, right? Like, and I don't take a stance of like birth control shouldn't be used for reasons other than contraception. I think that's a very individualized topic as well. And I respect a healthcare professional's choice with their patient of what they do. Like there are women who literally can't function and go to their jobs unless they're using, birth control for whatever reason it may be. But it's important to support yourself while you're on your birth control. So, that message of that talk about like birth control and then we talk about side effects, but there's an intermediate in there that we need to add, which is birth control, nutrient depletion, side effect. And it's just time for us ladies to start talking about that with more people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you started the conversation and the belief that when given the right tools, the body innately wants to heal and work for you, not against you.
Exactly.
And Sarah, where can people find out more about you and your company?
Yeah. So Feel Even is our website, feeleven.com. And you can check out more of what we're doing. You can reach out to us. We want to start a conversation about medication users. And just to throw it in there too, we are going way beyond just hormonal birth control as a category. We're targeting a lot of other types of medications as well, because sometimes people need to use them. And in this demographic, there might be a lot of people who are using thyroid medications. And I'm just going to throw out that's another area that we will be targeting very specifically. So if there's interest, I'd love to at someday maybe talk about that as well.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely have you back on. That sounds awesome. Well, we'll be keeping up with your work. Keep going out there and breaking some rules.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Lauren.